Today is arguably the last day, but every campaign should come to an end ahead of the by-elections that are supposed to be held in Kenya. Now, these by-elections are 24 in number, and we have less than 48 hours to know who is who across all the 24 stations that are yet to hold these by-elections. But first things first, we really want to thank you for keeping it the People's Mirror this far and for finding this as your channel of political commentatorship. If you're joining the People's Mirror for the first time, please hit the subscribe button. We are fairly a small channel. By the time I'm doing this episode, we are at 430 subscribers, and our target is to hit 1,000 subscribers before this week ends. So you can help us by joining that challenge to help our growth as a channel, but also to give us an opportunity to be able to detail for you or comment on whatever is going on in the Kenyan political scene timely. Now, with that done, and after you have hit the subscribe button, now let us delve into the discussion of the day. Of course, there are two by-elections that we have highlighted previously, being Yamira and Narok, because we have detailed a full episode on why these two by-elections really mattered. The Yamira and Narok by-elections were focusing on MCA ward elections. So if you look at the one for Narok, for example, it's the Narok township ward, and the Yamira one was also because of a ward within Yamira. But there are two by-elections that shifted or shook the Kenyan political scene all the way to the State House, and that is why we detailed them. And so I will make a quick commentership on the two, then we will focus on the other 8. By the end of this episode, we will have detailed to you what is arising out of 10 stations that are to hold their by-elections in 48 hours time. And then after that, we will do another episode encompassing another 14, so that, as we promised, we will have detailed all the 24 by-elections and everything arising out of them before the elections are done. So we will start again with the Yamira and the Narok one, but specifically the Narok one. So the Narok one was just a small township by-election for a position of the member of county assembly. But yesterday, when Rigathi Gachagua went there and he was blocked by the police, now it has gotten to the level of a national news, and so it is shaping that particular by-election that is to be held in Narok town, either positively or negatively, by the publicity that it has obtained. But in the People's Mirror, we will start from the beginning. So the first things first, this particular by-election in Narok Town Ward has both the DCP party, the Jubilee party, which are two parties from Mount Kenyan area, going against UDA and ODM. So these four top parties in Kenya right now are all fronting a candidate for the MCA position in Narok Township Ward. Yesterday, Rigathi Gachagua departed from his 10-day camp in Mbeere North, which he had stationed, which was supposed to run all the way to Friday this week, when the win in Mbeere North will be declared. But out of necessity, seemingly, he left the comfort that he had been living under in Mbeere North and went to the Ma communities. Now, before even having a direct campaign in Narok Township area, he held the interview with the Gen Zs the same way he had done in Mbeere North. And we detailed in a full episode at our parent channel, being the Civic Lens, that this could actually be the shift into the new campaign moving into 2027 and beyond, where electorates now will be engaging with the people seeking to be elected, not through mainstream media anymore or not through magazines anymore, but directly through their one-on-one engagement and also through the social media space. Now, this particular by-election has hit the national limelight because Rigathi was rejected, or rather was blocked by the police officers from accessing Narok Town. And so the residents of Narok Town have been wondering that what would necessitate a blockage of a party leader of the DCP party, yet there is a DCP candidate in the Narok Township Ward competition. And so this particular blockage, which ended with Rigathi Gachagua accessing Narok Town town and holding a small rally in that area, which he used as an opportunity to downplay the influence of the governor of Narok County right now, Honorable Patrick Ntutu, and also the Kenya Kwanza government, which he said is actually a very rogue regime to block people and Kenyan citizens with the right to access every part of the nation from carrying out campaigns in certain areas. Of course, this is following a lot of tensions that have been witnessed with this particular by-elections. In Merre North, while he was leaving a church service, he was almost stabbed, and Natembea also in Chwele in Kabuchai was almost also killed by goons and the regimes such like that. And so this particular tension across the nations and across certain stations of this particular by-elections is something new and something that we are calling now upon the IEBC, which is the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, to take a look at. Now, Douglas Maskonde, who is the DCP candidate for the Narok Township ward, might use this as an advantage to rally support for the few minutes or the few hours remaining between now and the 27th, which is less than 48 hours from the time we are having this episode. Could actually use that particular blockage to his advantage. However, whether he will use that or not is not something that we can say certainly, putting in mind that Narok Township ward and the entire Narok County has been a region that has been predominantly an ODM backyard. So ODM is also at a task to diffuse the influence of the UDA, which is the ruling party, Jubilee, which is the previous ruling party, DCP, which is the newest party in town, diffuse this influence in the predominantly ODM backyard, being the Ma community and the Narok County, with the Narok County Township Ward by-elections. Other than that, there was also the Yamira cohort, where we saw Governor Natembea, Honorable Boni Alwale, the Senator of Kakamega County, and also the co-principals of the United Opposition, Honorable Martha Karua, joining hands with Okengo Matiang'i. So we have detailed it here at the People's Mirror before on why it's a full episode. It's just the episode before this episode on why Boni Kalwale made the statements he made, and on why that particular involvement mattered for the political scene all the way to State House. And so a quick commentership would be this. You see, Matiang'i does not have a party that is his own party right now, yet he has aspirations for the 2027 presidential election bid. And so as a result, he is relying heavily on the support of the Jubilee government to actually hand over that win to him come the D-Day. As a result of that, he is entirely really relying on the goodwill of the mountain area to actually ascend him to power should the United Opposition settle upon him as the candidate that they want to carry their flag in 2027. The effect of this is that he might not have any other chance to have a political playground or a political ground to make political statements ahead of 2027. And so with the exit of the previous MCA in this particular part of Yamira now, Matiang'i had an opportunity to go back to his own backyard and rally support for his backyard and leave them deciding between now and 2027 whether or not they will rally behind Matiang'i. And so this by-election is really timely, not for the United Opposition as a bunch, but for Okengo Matiang'i's presidential bid to actually make those political statements in this heated political playground right now and leave the people of Yamira deciding between now and 2027 whether they will rally behind Matiang'i or not. And so in that lens, if you take a look at it that way, then it would make sense the call by Honorable Boni Kalwale for Matiang'i to hold hands with Natembea, because Luhya is the second most populous community in Kenya after the Kikuyu community. And so a Matiang'i ticket that is sponsored by the Kikuyu community and having George Natembea as the running mate from the Luhya community solidifies the race ahead of 2027. And also remember that whereas Jeremiah has since been silenced, the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, from making statements attacking the unity of the United Opposition ahead of their determination of the key principle to hold their flag in the 2027 election, that does not mean that the talks that the Jubilee Party has been having previously, that if the Okengo Matiang'i is not selected as the flag bearer for the United Opposition, then they have an intention of going solo with Okengo Matiang'i, then those talks should not be taken slightly. They should not be taken lightly recently now that this call by Boni Khalwale for Natembeya and Matiang'i to work together was made in Yamira, and also when Natembeya also made statements that seem to be departing from the position of the united opposition and calling for something that is called Kenya Moja arrangement ahead of this particular D-Day. You remember also in the launch of Matiang'i, or rather during the National Delegates Conference, the Special Delegates Conference that was being held by the Jubilee Party, there was a reserve of whether or not they have settled on Matiang'i. So from the Jubilee camp, you could say that they are playing a political move ahead of this arrangement of the co-principles of the united opposition, and the only thing that is keeping them there is waiting until when the united opposition will settle on a candidate, which most likely after the united opposition will have settled on that candidate, the Jubilee Party might take a different turn with their position if that candidate does not come from the Jubilee Party. And when that time comes, Okengo Matiang'i's backyard needs to be rallying behind him. Natembeya's friendship with Okengo Matiang'i needs to be delivering the Luya to Okengo Matiang'i, because Natembeya right now seems like the new guard that might receive all the accolades of the Luya community against the old guards in the new or in the forthcoming elections in 2027, or in the new Luya arrangement in 2027 and beyond. And so with Natembeya and Matiang'i's backyard and the small, or rather the sizable portion of Mount Kenya that will rally behind Matiang'i and any other votes that he can consolidate in the country, the by-election in Yamira was setting the ground for Matiang'i as a political presidential candidate in the 2027 elections. So ladies and gentlemen, that just shows you how two particular by-elections or two campaigns that were meant to be done for members of county assemblies ahead of this particular by-elections now have a weight of deciding, or rather reshaping the ground for presidential candidacy in 2027. Away from Yamira and Narok, let's take a look at the constituency by-elections. There are about 6 constituencies that are set to have their by-elections in the next 48 hours. And between now and those 48 hours, a lot of things are happening. Tensions are arising out of these stations, and every camp is trying to do something to solidify support for their camp in these main elections. So first things first, let's take a look at Kariobangi. Now, Kariobangi North constituency is also among the 6 that are yet to hold their by-elections in the next 48 hours. And in Kariobangi, there is the DCP party, there is the KANU party, there is the ODM party itself, and I think there's also a candidate fronting from the UDA party. But now, for KANU, UDA, Jubilee, and all these parties, their campaigns have not taken an intensified outlook in the last 48 hours towards the closure of these campaigns, save for the ODM candidate Honorable Michael Ouma Majua. Now, Mr. Ouma Majua Michael, alongside Esther Muthoni Passaris and the Secretary General of the ODM party, was seen doing their final touches in Kariobangi North yesterday. And so in this very interesting way of reaching out to the people, there were a lot of things being tested. Number one was the might of the ODM party still within the Nairobi area. The ODM party has had its strongholds in the Nairobi area, in key parts of the Nairobi area, for as long as Raila Odinga has been in the Kenyan politics. Lang'ata predominantly has been an ODM area, owing to the fact that Raila Odinga himself was the member of parliament of this particular area for 20 years. And then shortly after, it went to the hands of UDA, or then the party that was the Jubilee or TNA party arrangement that existed when it was taken by Generali Korir. And shortly after Generali Korir, Lang'ata has since gone back to the ODM dominance under Jalango. In 2027, we don't know how Lang'ata is going to vote, but now Lang'ata is still under the watchdog of Jalango, who is an ODM member. And then there is Kibera, which has been predominantly ODM for time immemorial. There is the Kariobangi North, Kariobangi South areas that now encompasses the entire Huruma and Mathare and Ruaraka areas. These areas have predominantly been ODM areas in previous elections. Now, with this new election dynamic in absence of Raila Odinga, whether or not these regions will still vote solidly behind the ODM party is something that is questioned. Not questionable, but rather questioned. And so these particular by-elections offer a test ground to see whether or not the influence of the previous dominant parties still weigh very heavily in this area. Now, if you take a look at whatever was happening in Kariobangi, we will detail the rest of it really later, but something interesting happened. Sifuna was carrying out a trivia where he was asking questions to the members of the public, and then the members of the public would answer, and then Sifuna would give them 1,000 bob. I don't know whether that is fit or not, but something stemmed out very clearly that while he asked a very interesting question to a lady who is holding a market stall in Kariobangi North and who also votes in Kariobangi North constituency, whether or not that lady could say the full names of the senator of Nairobi County, the lady did not. And so I took it rather as a way of how politicians have, perhaps think that they have a direct touch with the people on the ground, and it's until they come to the ground that they actually realize that that direct touch does not exist. Someone like Edwin Sifuna is a celebrated politician within the party dynamics, and Jalango has hinted prior that perhaps he could be a celebrated politician within the party dynamics, but does he have that touch with the people of Nairobi? So when he asked that question and the lady could not say the 3 names of the senator of Nairobi, it just confirmed what rather Jalango has been saying and other politicians have been saying, that other politicians are living in a milieu. Like Sifuna could be living in the milieu of being the secretary general of the party, but really does he have touch with the people of Nairobi? And when that lady proved that actually she does not know the full names of Edwin Sifuna, it showed that actually Sifuna might not have the touch of Nairobi that he predominantly thinks he has, or under the influence of Baba he has been celebrated to have. And so come 2027, even do away with the most known politicians and the big dogs in these political games, including Ruto, Rigathi, Kindiki and the likes. Even these other middle ground people like Sifuna and the likes, who have been rallying on party dominance and not on their connection with the people, really need to reevaluate their ground, or they might be meeting a shocker on the ground in 2027. And as such, you have seen with Nairobi, Babu is really trying to be more identifiable with the people of Embakasi East than to be identifiable with the ODM party. That way, he might still regain his control over his region and might even extend that control over Nairobi, because he is resonating with the people in the ground. Now, Sifuna has been resonating with the ODM members, and some of them outside the confines of the city might really need to reevaluate his connect with the people of Nairobi County. But that aside, the by-election will put to test whether or not ODM still has a grip of Kariobangi, or whether or not the Kariobangi North seat will now go to any other party other than the ODM party in that region. That aside, there is the Homa Bay County aspect of it also. This is also very interesting. You see, just following up on politicians that might find it rough post Raila's death, another one is the county governor of Homa Bay County, Gladys Wanga. I remember prior to the 2022 elections, there was a lot of interest in Homa Bay. Mbadi himself wanted to become the governor of Homa Bay County, and he started his campaigns very strongly. Up to some point, he went all the way to Homa Bay and he was talking door to door, like whatever Rigathi Gachagua is doing right now with the people of Homa Bay County to elect him. Then sometime Raila came into the mix, and Mbadi was no longer the preferred candidate for the ODM party. That ticket was going to Gladys Wanga. Within that ticket arrangement, there was another gentleman called Oyugi Magwanga, the current deputy president of Homa Bay. He also wanted that seat for quite some time, and now Raila told him to put down his interest and become the deputy governor for Wanga. Once the ticket was given to the Wanga Magwanga cohort, Evans Kidero, the former governor of Nairobi, also showed his interest for becoming the governor of Homa Bay in his second term as a governor. And people thought that actually Evans Kidero won, but because of the ODM influence in this particular area, Wanga was again declared the governor of that area. So Gladys Nyasuna Wanga has been relying on the Raila's dominance in this area, thinking that the people actually love her. But the Kasipul by-election is going to put that to test. Now that the deputy governor Oyugi Magwanga, who ought to have been the governor of Homa Bay County, has now distanced himself from the position of the governor and the position of the ODM party, and is now being seen rallying his support behind Otete Aroko less than 48 hours to the main election. Otete Aroko is this individual that is receiving support of the defectors of the ODM party and the members of the UDA party within the Homa Bay County alike, because they feel that he deserved to be given the ODM ticket, but Gladys Wanga did not. Now Gladys Wanga, who really needs the Kasipul votes ahead of her second term, because it's a sizable amount of votes coming from the Rachuonyo area, or the Rachuonyo district area, which has since been divided. Rachuonyo has been divided, Rachuonyo North and Rachuonyo South as also parts of the Homa Bay County, but the Kasipul previously formed part of the Rachuonyo area. Right now they are independent districts alongside that area. So Gladys Wanga, who really needs these particular votes ahead of 2027, really need the Kasipul win to go to Boyd Were, who is the candidate for the ODM party and also her preferred candidate for this particular region, to establish her strength as a fit governor in less than a year to meet the 2027 elections. But if these elections go the other way, to the side of Otete Aroko, then Gladys Wanga's gubernatorial seat in 2027 is also facing the same threat. Now Oyugi Magwanga has split the gubernatorial house, leaving Governor Wanga as the chairperson of the ODM with the ODM candidate Boyd Were, and is joining hands with the individuals that are supporting Aroko. In the next 48 hours, we are going to see, interestingly, what is going to happen out of this showdown. Is it going to be a Wanga moment with Boyd Were, the son of the late Ongondo Were? Are they going to secure this position? Or is Kasipul now going to shy away of ODM hardly a month after the death of Raila Odinga and vote an independent candidate in this area to just show how much they are distasted with the ODM party? But beyond that, a determination of Aroko Otete becoming the member of parliament for Kasipul will mean something beyond just that. It will open the floodgates for new politicians to arise out of South Nyanza that has historically been subdued by the Oginga and the ODM dominance. Now the dominance of the likes of Mbadi, the likes of Kajwangs, the likes of Gladys Wanga will now go down the drain if Otete wins Kasipul, and Homa Bay will be an open space for the likes of Kidero and the likes of Agustino Neto Yugi and the likes of anyone who have been defecting from the ODM party and trying to create a mark of their own. Yet the dominance of Raila Odinga and the ODM party have subdued will now have a chance to come to the limelight, and will have a chance of even giving the Luo nation a new kingpin other than the one that they have previously had. So Kasipul has a lot of determination on it. Like, thus becoming the member of parliament is not for Boyd Were and Aroko Tete alone. It's for the continuity of ODM party, or for the birth of the new rise of politicians who are not affiliated to the ODM party yet can do a one-on-one development for the people. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we will keep our eyes for your sake in whatever will happen in Homa Bay now that the top seat, being the governor's position, has been divided between these two candidates, and even the broad-based arrangement has been divided, with ODM having their candidate and UDA supporting the independent candidate Aroko Otete. Then Mbeere North. In Mbeere North, it is interesting. You see, now they have reduced the mountain fight into a stone fight, and now Kindiki is positioning himself in this last 48 hours as David, while he's referring to Gachagua as the Goliath. So just like the biblical fight between David and Goliath, Kindiki intends to use just a sling and one stone to subdue the Goliath influence. I wanted to call it the humongous, but rather the huge Goliath influence of Rigathi Gachagua in that area. Rigathi, who had promised to keep his camp until Friday, had since left his camp to go to Narok and, lure the Ma community into the DCP friendship, and also, establish the influence of the DCP party in the Narok town ward. Now, Kindiki has since kept his camp, and so ahead of the 48 hours left to this main elections, we are going to see whether or not Kindiki will be the David that used a stone on the Goliath that is referring to as Rigathi Gachagua, or this will be the first time that Goliath beat David in a contest. So we are keeping our eyes in Mbeere North to see how this is going to play out. Again, Mbeere North, we have said the weight in it is so humongous. It's an election whose success really means a lot to everyone. Means a lot to Kindiki, means a lot to Rigathi Gachagua from their fight. But if you come just beneath them, means a lot to JB Muturi and Lenny Kivuti in one end, and to Ruku on the other end. But if you come a little bit lower, means something to Karish and to Leonard Mudende, or Leonard Meruki, whatever his name is, who has since changed his name and does not even have a voter card for the area that he is vying for as a member of parliament. So we'll keep our focuses again in this war that has an effect of determining whether or not Kindiki will still remain a vice president post 2027, or whether Ruto has now fully lost the grip of the mountain area to Rigathi Gachagua. There are also concerns coming from Magarini. Magarini constituency is located in Kilifi County, and they are holding their by-election because the previous election was marred with issues of rigging, and so as a result, the current member of parliament, Honorable Herman Garama, is facing Stanley Kenga Karisa, who previously won those elections but was not given the win because of Mr. Garama's fraudulent deals as per the Supreme Court's decision. And so Mr. Karisa Kenga is feeling like this is his time to go and reclaim that particular position for the people of Magarini. Yet now we have seen allegations coming from the United Opposition camp blaming Mr. Abdallah, the vice chairperson under Mr. Ethekon, for actually being in collusion with the governor, Mr. Mungaro, to actually shift the previous returning officers, rather presiding officers, with the new presiding officers under Mungaro's regime. We don't know whether this is insurance by the United Opposition so that when they lose, they can actually say that they highlighted these concerns, or if Stanley Kenga Karisa wins, will they still say that Mungaro paid the presiding officers and the vice IBC commissioner? Kabuchai and Malava are no-go zones anymore for the United Opposition, even if Panyako seems to be winning that particular end. But for the members of the United Opposition right now, they cannot step in Chwele Kabuchai after the attempt on Natembea's life happened in that particular area that is now a Ford Kenya dominance. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the recap of the final days of this particular campaigns as they are coming to an end, and the tensions that are associated with those regions. However, we are keeping our focuses or our lenses focused in this particular by-election between now and those 48 hours and even beyond, to keep you updated on what happens in these particular areas as they happen. This is the People's Mirror.